Hello to all the IHB leavers. No, you guys don't want to be called that. That's way too close to believers. We're going to have to come up with something to call you guys. I'm not really sure what it is yet. Maybe you guys can send in your suggestions. I'll give you the Twitter handle later, and you guys can tell us what your thoughts, what you want to be called. I'm going to guess a few of the suggestions will be your mom, because that's the only person who listens to it. But anyway, hello, my name is Dominic Damore, and thank you for tuning in to the second best thing you will hear all week. I have a great show for you today that includes top-notch film reviews, and we're going to give you the box office battle/breakdown. It's a very special episode today, as I am actually the only host. This is going to be a first, and it's going to be rough, but kind of like the first year of a marriage, we're going to work our way through it. There's going to be some moments we regret, but overall, we're going to come out on the other side better for it. Let's kick it off with our movie review, which is Money Monster. Right, so this film is directed by Jodi Foster. It stars George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Jack O'Connell, who some of you might not know. He's from the film Unbroken, that Angelina Jolie directed project from not too long ago, and Dominic West, who is a wonderful actor, but the guy must have pissed somebody off along the way in his career, because all he gets is these really crap roles in these really bad movies. But of course, you also might know him as McNulty from the infamous HBO series The Wire. He was absolutely great in that, and he's a really good actor. I just don't understand why he gets put in these really, really weird roles that just don't really let him shine and be the best actor that he probably could be. But anyway, back to Money Monster. This film tells a story of George Clooney, who is the host of a money management / stock show. You often see these guys on like CNN. They're the ones who push the buttons and giant graphics come up behind them and say, sell, 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 or buy, 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 buy. Interesting concept. Julia Roberts plays the director of his show. And one day, Jack O'Connell's character comes onto the set wielding a gun and a bomb vest and says, you told me to invest in this bad stock and now I lost everything and you guys are the ones who are going to pay for it because something's fishy. Like I said, it's a very interesting topic. The movie's first trailer that was released, it showed a little bit too much for my liking. You guys may have seen the trailer. It's a really good trailer. It plays a great Bruce Springsteen song in it, which, I mean, he's going to grab anybody's attention. But I really liked the trailer. I was not super excited going into the movie because, I gotta admit, I'm a little down on Clooney and Julia Roberts lately. Neither one has created a really great film in a number of years, and to be honest, Julia Roberts especially is not choosing great roles. More on her later, though. Let's start off with what I liked about the film. For the majority of the time, it actually had this really nice small feel. They were confined mostly to a television production studio, so that made it really interesting to where you got to see kind of behind the scenes, and they were all on the set, which they then made the set interactive, and they used it in creative ways, so props to that. It made this fairly large-scale movie feel small for the majority of it, and a lot of that comes down to the actors' performances as well. They didn't go over-the-top grandiose. They all did a fairly decent job. The standout was probably O'Connell. I think he might have given the best performance out of anybody in the movie. Not a ton of actual characters per se in the film. There's a couple of big names like Roberts and Clooney and West, and Giancarlo Esposito has a sizable chunk of a role, but for the most part, it's really a 3 to 5 person film. So again, that speaks back to the kind of small feel that Jodi Foster was able to accomplish. O'Connell was very good. Going into his performance, I was a little worried about his accent. It's very heavy New York, and he fully plays into it. Just watch the trailer, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you haven't seen the movie yet. But I'm pleasantly surprised that the accent melted away. Like, I didn't even notice it after the first couple of scenes, and that's when an accent's really good. You just don't even really notice it. Speaking of accents, Jimmy and I have talked about it a couple times on the podcast. I'm very judgmental of them, but at the same time, I do like when they attempt it. Personally, I prefer, if you can do a mediocre accent, go for the accent. But if you're an actor and you can't pull off an accent and it's just bad, see Chadwick Boseman in Gods of Egypt or a couple of different people in The Departed. Just don't bother doing it. You might stand out and catch some heat because you didn't have an accent. Like, oh, this guy's from Boston, he doesn't have an accent. But in the long run, I think it makes a performance that much better. So if you can pull off a mediocre one, go for it. Personal preference. But at the same time, if yours is just awful, have somebody like speak some wisdom into your head, because if you suck at them, nobody's going to like it. O'Connell had some really nice emotion-ridden moments as well. He gets a bit of a bad rep because everybody in this movie is just kind of shitting on him. Like, everyone. Like, they call him stupid and say that he's never going to amount to anything. And in a way, they're kind of right. The overall mistake is technically his fault, but at the same time, you have to give the guy credit because he was able to convey an emotion. Like, I felt bad for this character. And some of that was the writing, so his writing was decent, but a lot of it came through in just the way of his delivery in the line. There were several scenes that I thought he did a really good job. I think overall, the movie didn't do him justice, and he ended up becoming a tragic character just for a tragic character's sake, but at the end of the day, I give him props as being the best performance in this movie. Some people might not say that's a big honor, but hey, it's best to be the best player on the worst team than the worst player on the worst team, right? Spiraling back to the first point I made about the movie having a fairly small feel, cinematically it was shot very nicely. They used the studio that they were in very wisely. There were some angles that you don't normally see in movies because, oh, why would that camera ever be in that position? Or like, why would you want to see the back of somebody's head? But they used the idea that, like, okay, they can move these cameras, they can position them in certain ways in a very intelligent and useful way that didn't hinder the movie in any way. And some people who like to see different styles of cinematography might have even enhanced this film for you. I don't put a whole bunch of stock into cinematics unless it's on that like grandiose scale where they're really trying something new. But if you're into that kind of thing, this movie will definitely be a benefit for you. Continuing on, there's really two ways to judge this movie. The first way, which is the straight up satire. Like, everything they're saying is meant to be a kind of joke or an impression of how society is currently acting, but dialed up to 11. Or the other way, which was initially presented in the trailer, is as a straightforward drama. This made the movie a little confusing. Tonally, it was very hard to judge where this movie was at. Is it making fun of the situation, or is it taking this situation as like, hey, this is serious, and these actors, like, they're putting on performances that are meant to be taken seriously? Like, it feels like sometimes they're trying to win an Oscar, and it feels at other times like they're trying to make a point. So, it was a little tough to do. With that being said, it feels like the movie's caught in limbo. It doesn't know really what it is, and overall, the movie suffered for it. If you can't tell, we've slowly migrated our way into the negative section, as there's not a whole lot in this film that I really loved, so we'll pile on a bit with these negatives. Now, some of the jokes they made, like allusions to, okay, something big is going on TV, and people are watching it at bars, and they're drinking, and they're making bets and things like that, or at the climax of the movie, once the dust kind of settles, everybody just kind of goes back to work. Nobody really thinks about what just happened in front of their eyes. So that part makes you think, like, okay, this is a satire. I'm supposed to be thinking about this movie. But then they follow it up with a weird joke, like somebody having sex in a office closet, or just like jokes about, oh, what are we going to do next week? I'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, tonally, I can't figure out what this movie's supposed to be. And that made the judging of this movie hard. I didn't know whether to do a straight drama, which it fails at pretty hard, or do it as a political satire, which, ironically, it actually does a pretty good job, but the heavy drama moments kind of overtake everything, so it dropped it down a little bit. For example, one of those moments that you're not really sure where to judge it. Each character gets these very long, like, inspirational monologue moments that, because of the humor in the movie, almost feel unearned. Especially with Julia Roberts. Her character gets no development whatsoever, but still she somehow is an authority in the film. You get her perspective on certain things, and you are expected to care about her and her relationships, but it just never really works. For example, spoilers here. But let's face it, if you're listening to this, odds are you either already seen the movie, hi mom, or you're going to wait to see this until it comes out on Netflix, to which you'll probably forget what I have to say anyway. So, for the record, spoilers, but the climactic ending happens, and I won't tell you who gets hurt or anything like that, but there's a moment where, it's not Julia Roberts and it's not George Clooney. Spoilers. They're sitting on a couch in a hospital, and they're eating Chinese food, and Julia Roberts turns to George Clooney and goes, "So, what are we doing for next week?" And, yeah, it's a funny line, and it has this, like, kind of happy ending, but somebody just died. Things happen in this movie. And you're telling me the characters who throughout have been trying to convince you that they're involved with this story and they care, suddenly are making these jokes and they've just completely forgot about what happened. So it definitely was a little hard to follow, and that affected my rating huge, because I am judging this movie off of the only thing I can, which is as a straightforward drama. That's the movie the trailer sold me, and there's enough of that in this movie to where I can't say it's a true satire, so I have to go as a drama with funny satirical moments, so I give credit there, but overall, it fails on both ends. Alright, going from a straight movie perspective, ignoring kind of story and things like that, and elements like that, just going from maybe like acting, performances, things like that, stuff that everybody can see and like they can tell, like, oh, that guy was bad or something like that. Clooney was fine in this movie. He started out very cheesy and very over the top. Like, you could tell he was playing a character on television who at the same time is kind of an asshole in real life, and he cranks that number up to like 11, thinking like, I'm going to get these audience members to really hate me. But it's just one of those things where you can tell he's trying to do that. Nothing felt organic. He openly says things where it's like, oh, I haven't eaten dinner alone since 1987. Cool, Clooney. Like, you didn't see that line as having an issue. You didn't think to like dial that back a bit, maybe to go for some subtle hints that you're an asshole instead of just like blatantly throwing it out there. Circling back to Julia Roberts in this film, she was not bad. She also was not good. Her character honestly could have been played by anyone. And if it was somebody who I expect less of, might have even been a better experience for me at the theater. But Julia Roberts taking a role like this, I just don't understand it. She has such talent when it comes to acting, and she's so beloved. I wonder what made her take this film. Was it just because Jodi Foster was directing and George Clooney was attached to star? Because the characters never really share much screen time, so I can't imagine they spent a whole ton of time together shooting. And Foster, while is a up-and-coming star as a director, really mainly known for acting career at this point, so I don't really understand why Julia Roberts took this role. Her character has no real development. You don't have an emotional connection to the character. In fact, there's an underlying storyline where she's preparing to leave the show she's currently working on and going to a different one, and you honestly forget about it for the majority of the film. You're not even worried about it. You're just thinking like, oh yeah, no, whatever, she can go if she wants. They don't tell reasons why, aside from like minor illusions that she wants to do real news or something like that, but it was just very cliched, and they could have replaced her with somebody on the outside, and this movie would have been exactly the same. As I said earlier, nobody really gave a truly bad performance, except for, I take that back, 2 characters were downright awful. Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad, who everybody knows as Gus from that show, tremendous actor. Truly wonderful talent. In this movie, completely wasted. Probably the worst handling of a character I've ever seen. It looks like they went straight to the casting notebook and said, all right, let's insert a character here who does everything wrong, has a high-ranking role, is opinionated, and has no idea what they're doing. And let's fill it with a tremendous actor. Didn't make sense at all. His decisions as a police captain were completely insane. Again, spoilers. At one point, his best option is to shoot the hostage, which, while it worked in Speed for Keanu Reeves and Jeff Daniels, not so sure it would have worked in this movie. And also, I saw the movie SWAT with Colin Farrell. People get sued over that shit. It happens. People lose their jobs. People end up in the gun cage and have to wait for Samuel L. Jackson to come by and see their true potential. And I don't see that happening for Giancarlo Esposito. I see him getting fired and the city getting sued for millions of dollars. They were going to shoot George Clooney. The guy runs a money management show. You're telling me he's not going to be greedy and be like, I got shot. $50 million now, New York. Goodbye. Horrible writing on that part. Horrible acting, as much as it pains me to say. And also, Chris Bauer. Most of you know him as the sheriff from True Blood. A bit of a character actor, but usually is really solid in most of his roles. He was a complete cliche in this film. He plays the negotiator who essentially comes up with every wrong stereotype imaginable for Jack O'Connell's character. He calls him a mama's boy who lives in his mother's basement. Turns out that's not true. And then so many other things that it was just like, why is this character in the movie? I get it that the movie's not very long, so maybe they had to put in some filler, but at the same time, come on, guys. Step up your writing. And that's all I really ask. I can't say it enough. The movie was just predictable. My final thoughts, if you got nothing else to do on a Saturday, go ahead and rent this movie from Redbox, or I wouldn't recommend buying it so much. It's very predictable, and I think once you see it once, you can probably tell me the entire story from beginning to end without missing a beat. So I wouldn't recommend buying it. Get it from Redbox, rent it on iTunes. I'm sure it'll be on Netflix eventually because it's just oozing with that Netflix magic. Big stars and a crappy movie. Yeah, it's going to end up there. Let's go with my final rating. As always, the rating scale is on a 1 to Good Will Hunting, because Good Will Hunting is the greatest movie of all time, in my opinion. If you want to fight me about it, then do it. Just use the hashtag IHB Movies. Just trying to inspire you people. I can tell you that Michael Bay is cool too, but I'm not going to do that. I won't stoop that low. But yeah, my final score for this film is 5.2 out of 10 apples. Not very good. A little bit mediocre. There's nothing truly wrong with the film except for a couple minor actors' performances and an overall predictable story. It had potential, but it just, it dropped the ball. With all that being considered, I'm not going to go into a huge tangent here, but if you want to see a good movie this weekend, aside from Captain America Civil War, but a true indie kind of film, go see Sing Street. It is a wonderful little comedy / coming of age story where this kid in Dublin, Ireland in 1985 is facing poverty, his parents' divorce, a city, or actually country, that is just stricken with everybody leaving and nobody being able to find jobs, and he starts this band in order to just improve his life. Falls in love with a girl, puts her in his music videos. Just a wonderful story that I really enjoyed. The soundtrack is 100% original. Every song is sung by the lead character in the film, who is a no-name actor who I absolutely adored. I wish I had his name in front of me, but I don't, and I know it's a very long one. I know his last name is Peelo, P-E-E-L-O, I believe. Kid can sing. Soundtrack was straight out of the 1980s, felt that way, and I was thinking that these songs were just rehashes they do sometimes, oh, hey, I wrote Enter Sandman. But no, these are 100% original. John Carney, the director, and a few other people wrote them, and honestly, I would buy them on iTunes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to after I stop recording this. Ending gets a little wonky, but like I said, it's an independent film. You have to usually expect that from that kind of genre. Endings are usually the hardest part, and they're usually go for that artsy feel, so be ready for that. But overall, this movie is really good. Jack Rayner, who I previously only knew from the Star Wars franchise. He was in the fourth one, Age of Extinction and Expulsion and Devastation and Exaggerations, and Mark Wahlberg being like, I found a transformer. Awful in that movie, but he was amazing in this film. Jack Rayner, that is, not Mark Wahlberg. Wahlberg is very rarely good in any film. But he plays the older brother character who kind of sacrificed his life / screwed it up in his own way, and gives this sage advice to his younger brother, telling him what to look for in music and how music is true art, and kind of plays that Philip Seymour Hoffman role from Almost Famous, but to a larger extent. So I really like this film, and I think you guys should go check that out as opposed to Money Monster. Alright, so that was my review for the week. If you saw Money Monster, let me know what your thoughts are, or if you just want to ask us a question, you can shoot us a tweet to @IHBpodcast, or just use the hashtag IHBmovies, or check us out on Facebook at the I've Had Better podcast page. Next up, which is usually much more intense because Jimmy is here and one of us gets to gloat about who won that week, but we have the box office battle, which is a competition between friends for bragging rights and, of course, who's going to buy the first drink that weekend, of course. How the game works is each week Jim and I will both give our rankings for how we think the box office will turn out, and the one who's closest to the top 5 order wins the point for the week. No further introduction. The results from last week are as follows. Captain America holds on to the top spot, earning $72.6 million, dropping off just shy of 60% in its second week. Next, we have Disney's The Jungle Book, earning an additional $17.8 million, reaching the $800 million mark worldwide. A very impressive number, and I'm sure Jon Favreau and everybody at Disney is proud of. In third place, we had newcomer, which I previously talked about in my review, Money Monster, pulling in $15.2 million. And fellow premiere film, The Darkness, the Kevin Bacon horror sci-fi thriller film The Darkness, pulled in $5.2 million to take the fourth spot. And rounding out the top 5 was the abomination of a film, embarrassment to every actor involved, Mother's Day, making an undeserved $3.2 million. Jimmy did take the top spot, full credit for that, but in my defense, I had the exact same order as him, and I decided to be the gentleman and change my order for the sake of competition. Did that for you guys, the fans, and in no way was I influenced whatsoever by the pull of George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Cough. But yeah, it was a solid week overall. Captain America dropping down nearly 60%. Not ideal, but that's better than the 70% that Batman vs. Superman dropped off in its second week. And 72 million is a strong number. And more importantly, this movie's going to make $1 billion. I think last I heard it was already pushing over $800 million worldwide in only its second week. So yeah, this movie's going to make over $1 billion, which is more than Batman vs. Superman did in its entire run. Some news of note, with Captain America's success in Marvel, all of their MCU films have now pushed over $10 billion in earnings at the box office. That is an insane number, considering that there's, roughly 13 Marvel films? I think Disney's pretty happy. But back to Captain America, it's going to be interesting. You wonder if there's a bit of superhero fatigue going on after we had Batman vs. Superman, and now we have Captain America, and 60%, while not a horrible number, certainly not what we were looking for. And you have to wonder how X-Men Apocalypse is going to do in a couple weeks. A film that is not getting great reviews and doesn't have quite the following that Marvel does. They still do make good money, but not quite Marvel money. So I'm curious how that movie debuts. I don't think it's going to flop by any means, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it on the lower end, maybe $80 to $90 million. possibly up to 120, but honestly, the reviews I'm hearing are not very good. On to the second place spot, Jungle Book. Only a 30% drop-off in its 5th week. That's really good. Almost pushing a billy as well. That's a billion for you common folk. Next week's going to be a big test for this film, as it took second place the last few weeks, but there's a lot of big movies coming out. And I wonder if it's going to hold on to that top 5 spot. It's going to be tough. But again, if it only drops off another 30 million or 30%, you have to assume it'll be in that top 5. So which newcomer is not going to make it? That's the real question. Third place, Money Monster. You heard my review on it. You know I'm not crazy about the film. Bit surprised, though. I thought it was going to do a bit better. I had it projected to come in number 2, actually. I thought it was going to do around 17 million, but just didn't have the numbers. Makes you think that the movie star is no longer a thing. Jimmy and I have talked about this in the past. Movie stars don't sell films anymore. Good scripts, good trailers, good writing, good stories, they sell. But if your name's not Tom Cruise, nobody goes to see your movies. And even Tom Cruise has to be very selective with what he chooses. He chooses very fun films or very interesting films, kind of like Edge of Tomorrow or Jack Reacher. Those two are both very different films in tone and interest-wise. Like Jack Reacher is much more of just that pure action adrenaline film, whereas Edge of Tomorrow is a little bit more heady and takes into effect like sci-fi and all that. So, unless your name's Tom Cruise, you're not leading a movie and making it earn more than $15 million, clearly. But then again, if this movie was a little better, who knows, maybe it could have done 20. And The Darkness, the horror, thriller, poltergeisty movie. Yeah. Didn't see this one. I thought about seeing it really hard last weekend. I was even bored sitting at home, and I was like, should go to the movie. Worst case scenario, I get to write something about it, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I knew this film was going to be bad, and only making a little over $5 million to date. So the good thing about this film, though, it was made for pennies. Only like a $5 million budget, so they've already made their money back. They're going to probably make money because there wasn't a huge marketing push for the film. But the important thing is Hollywood needs movies like this. Not everything can be a blockbuster. And if we don't have these small movies, we're going to end up with stuff like last week, where the only movie coming out was Captain America. And for a guy like me who, because I write reviews and all that, I have to see pretty much every movie that comes out. It made it difficult last week because I'd seen everything at the movie theater already. And I wrote my review for Captain America on Thursday. So I had nothing to write about the next week. I know first world my problems, but something to consider going forward. Support those smaller films. And rounding out the top 5, you all know how I feel about this movie. I hate it. It's extremely racist. Don't know how it ended up in the top 5 again. Whoever spent the $3.5 million to see this movie this weekend, I shame you. I shame you like Cersei walking through the streets of King's Landing. Just shame. So those were the results for this week. Let us know what you guys think. You can send us an email to ihbpodcast@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts on this past week's box office, or just ask us a question in general. We look forward to hearing from you guys. Also, as I said earlier, don't forget to send in your suggestions on what we should call you, or else I'm going to stick with IH Believers. And trust me, you guys do not want that moniker. Despite the fact that James was in a Wakandan village over the weekend and was not able to get back because he's on a super secret mission for S.H.I.E.L.D., he was able to send me his predictions for next week. In first place, he has Captain America Civil War. And in second place, he has Angry Birds. Third place, he has Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. In fourth place, he has the Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling film, The Nice Guys. And in fifth place, rounding out, he has The Jungle Book. It's a good list. I think I get where he's going. He's projecting good numbers for all these premiering films, and they're all really interesting. They've had good trailers. They've all got good followings. Civil War is obviously going to be number 1 again. I gotta say, I disagree with him. Just slightly. Just on the back end there. And my list is I have Captain America number 1, Angry Birds number 2, Neighbors 2 number 3, if that wasn't confusing enough to say. And in the 4th place, I have The Jungle Book. Rounding out the top 5, I have The Nice Guys. This isn't a knock on The Nice Guys. Honestly, Nice Guys is probably the movie I'm looking forward to most this weekend. It's just you're going up against some heavy hitters. You have people who are still going to go see Captain America. If you don't go see Captain America, kids are going to want to go see Angry Birds. That means their parents are going to go see Angry Birds. And also, looking at the trailers, I think that movie looks really funny. So I think they're going to pull away some kids and older people, my generation, people even older than me. Heck, I could see some 60-year-olds going to see this movie because it looks like it has a wide range of humor. So I think Angry Birds is going to really stomp away into that second spot and take away viewers from The Nice Guys and Neighbors 2 and Jungle Book. Which leads me to The Neighbors 2. Good, solid first entry into the film. Second one's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of big name stars in the film. The trailers have been very funny. The marketing has been solid. And I think that people enjoy Seth Rogen's films. I think they're going to come out to support. I think the raunchy comedy is definitely something they're going to be interested in. And the Neighbors 2 crowd and the Nice Guys, who both are R-rated, they're going to fight a little bit. So both are going to kind of lose out. Where I differ from Jim is I have The Jungle Book in the 4th spot. I think this is just because, like I said, The Nice Guys has so much to go against it. Jungle Book made $17 million this week. Let's say there's another, we'll say 35. You're still looking at like $12 to $13 million. And if you were going to tell me the 5th place spot is going to make $12 million, that's a heavy weekend. And I don't know if Nice Guys has got enough of a following. I don't know if that debuts that well. Shane Black usually doesn't, short of Iron Man 3, so it's something interesting. I'm definitely going to go see The Nice Guys this weekend. I just don't know what everybody else is going to do. So those were mine and Jimmy's picks for this week. Let us know what your top 5 are. You can use the hashtag IHB Movies on Twitter. You can contact us on Facebook, or you can even send us an email. We'll get to that in a second because I have run out of stuff to talk about, so I'm going to do the outro in a second. But I want to thank you guys all for listening. This was a fun show. First time doing it by myself. Hopefully you're working with me through the missteps and the ums and the pauses and the odd edits that I'm going to do that make myself sound not so dumb. But going forward, these shows will get a lot easier if you guys decide to contact us and send in your questions. I'd love to hear what you guys think and get your questions read on the air. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please like this episode and subscribe to the I've Had Better Podcast Network. It's a huge help for us, guys. It really is. Please invite your friends as well. The more people who listen, the more following we can get, the better content we can provide, and hopefully one day make this show big enough to where we can get video because you want to see my pretty face on the internet, and we'll get Jim's on there too, I guess. The Greek god that he is. But you can also follow us on Twitter at IHB Podcast and on Facebook. Go like the I've Had Better Podcast page. At this point, normally Jimmy would tell you how to find him, but I guess I'm going to do that. You can follow him on Twitter at _Kaiser, KEYSER_Soze, SOZE. I know he does really make it easy for you guys to find him. Or you can just look him up on Facebook as Jimmy Langos. Don't forget to check out our website. That is www.ihbpodcast.com. Or now you can check us out on iTunes. If you got an iPhone, you could rock that shit, son. Just go to iTunes and search I've Had Better Podcast. It'll pop right up for you. I think we're up to 10 episodes now on there. So like us, subscribe to us. Even if you're not going to listen, just subscribe because I really want to get our following up. But we have a great show, and I want to know why you wouldn't want to subscribe. Just do it for me, please. I am Dominic Damore. You can follow me on Twitter at Dom Damore or on Facebook as Dominic Damore. How was the show today, Dom? I've had better. Good night, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me.